Hi, I'm Siobhan Sarna, and I have a very special guest today. The reason why we have Dr. Sam Madeira with us today is because he's a brain trust. He's a naturopathic doctor. He's going to go over his credentials himself really briefly. But what I wanted to talk about is how important the gut-brain connection is and how the microbiome is going to be impacting, well, it is impacting our moods, but the discoveries that are happening from the research. I started a company called Chronic Condition Rescue because a ton of stuff was wrong with me, including SIBO and IBS from food poisoning when I was 5 on a trip to India. I just tell that whole story briefly in my Siobhan Sarna TV on Instagram, by the way. It's, it's tough when you got something going on and you don't know why, you don't know what it is, what's the root cause. And at some point you're like, I don't care what's causing it, I just want to fix it. And other times you're like, if I only so what if we could impact our mood by supporting our microbiome in a way that optimized it? And what if there are studies that support it? Like a lot of great what ifs there. And what's so cool is that the science is here now, and so is the product. It's one thing when this happens to me all the time. Oh, I hear about this great strain, I hear about this or that, not commercially available. Like so close. I know everyone's really working hard in the labs, et cetera, to get these out to market. And you want it to be a credible company like Microbiome Labs is. Okay, enough of me. We have our special guest, Dr. Sam Madeira, who's going to do his presentation. He's got a lot of citations. He's summarized them for us. Thank you, sir. And he's been into herbs for over 20 years. He's going to explain. But he's a naturopath, and he is one of the clinical educators from Microbiome Labs, and we're glad to have you here. Our first one with you. So good. So glad to have you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to talk to you all today. So we're going to, as Siobhan mentioned, we're going to talk about the psychobiome and psychobiotics, as they're called. So the title of the talk obviously is listed on the slide, the Psychobiome Reset, why the gut-brain axis is the future of mood and sleep support. So real brief, just high level, our agenda is going to be talking about the stress response, which I'm sure we're all very familiar with personally, and just from, maybe driving in traffic or opening an email or whatever. So we're going to also talk more detailed into the gut-brain axis and how this works with the nervous system and all the way at the cellular level, at the gut cell health level onward. So I'm really excited to talk about this with you. And the two products that we'll focus on are Zenbiome COPE and Sleep. So we'll talk about what's in them, how they work, and how they can benefit people who need all that they do. And then we'll have time for Q&A. So let's get to it. So as Siobhan mentioned, succinctly, I'm a naturopathic doctor, so was in practice for over 13 years and saw a lot of patients. Before that, wilderness EMT and herbalist for about 2 decades or more, and then been working in medical education for well over a year.
Nice glamour shot, by the way. Nice glamour shot.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the guy who took that shot took, I think, Jeff Bezos photos in the late 90s. So I don't know what that says for me, but anyway, here we are. So yeah, so worked at a lot of different clinics in Seattle and Whitefish, Montana. So if you're in either of those places, you may know of those clinics that I worked at. Good stuff. And today we're going to really drill down into these two products and how they work, and we're going to talk about human physiology and stuff like that. So occasional stress, these two products that have the Bifidobacterium longum strain here, specifically were developed to target people who are dealing with occasional stress, which I think is everybody. But maybe someone who doesn't have any stress. Mild mood changes, low energy, fatigue, and occasional sleeplessness. So that can look like problems going to sleep, maybe jet lag, frequent travel, stuff like that. So you may be familiar with having some of the symptoms of acute stress or chronic stress where you have these symptoms, or you have someone close to you in your life that has these symptoms. Your heart rate goes up, you start getting sweaty, clammy palms, your jaw gets clenched, you start feeling maybe even like some people may have like TMJ or something like that. They go to the dentist and their dentist's like, hey, you're grinding your teeth at night. Tense body, sweating a lot, flushed skin, dilated pupils, that's the fight or flight. There's also freeze and fawn. Sometimes people are kind of like, why did I freeze when I should have done something or should have said something? That's part of this fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And then fawn is typically you're trying to kind of like tend and befriend instead of being more in the fight or flight response. So here's a lion roaring, if you will. And more on the acute stress response. It's mental and physical. It affects the gut. It affects the sympathetic nervous system. It can affect your ability to digest things long term. So a lot of people who have different digestive complaints, bloating, indigestion, constipation, diarrhea, etc., can fall into this. Since we're talking about gut health, we're going to talk about gut symptoms, right? Blood sugar dysregulation from the gut biome being disrupted from stress, slow digestion, slow transit time. People are talking about SIBO a lot for many years. The slow transit time is part of that. Sodium retention. So you may get kind of more like water weight, so to speak. Sometimes if you have a lot of like dysregulation around this, it can take up to 60 minutes to get back to normal, sometimes longer, depends on the person. I think we all have our own constitutions, how we kind of deal with stress. Some people are more kind of like a rhino and some people more like a squirrel, right? Like I think of the squirrel from the movie Ice Age, that animated movie. I don't know if anyone has kids or watched that a while ago, but there's like the squirrel's kind of freaking out about this one little acorn in the beginning of the film. So other kind of signs or symptoms, it could be stomach ulcers, reflux, depression, mood, irritability, mood disorders, so to speak, weight gain around the abdomen. That's, the typical like cortisol imbalance, high blood pressure, even low blood pressure. Some people have low blood pressure because they're not holding on to certain electrolytes very well or absorbing them. Poor sleep. We were talking a lot about poor sleep because we're talking about how sleep can be improved with our product today. And then frequent colds and illnesses. So I remember a long time ago, I moved to Seattle over 20 years ago from Arizona. And when I moved there, I wasn't used to kind of the biomes around me, if you will, and the climate and the cold, damp. And I was getting sick quite a bit. So that to me would be a sign of, hey, like maybe something to do with the biome and some key nutrients. Back then, probiotics weren't really talked about as much as they are today. So it's really awesome that we have this research and tools today that were not available then. So common causes of stress. I'm not going to list all of these. I mean, I'm sure we all can kind of think of stressful things in our lives that we don't want to think about, looking at the media, social media, our poor diet, maybe children or relationships. I always found that with my patients, it was typically work and or key relationships in their life. So significant other, spouse, or their boss or coworkers seem to be kind of like a common theme all in all. So correcting those the best you can, and then working on these other things that we'll talk about. Just some key notes here, some kind of high level stuff. Chronic stress, which a lot of us have, can cause a lot of inflammation in the gut-brain axis and sleep and mood disruption, and dysregulates eventually, or can contribute to dysregulating the HPA axis. So that's the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. So that's your brain, key brain centers, and your adrenal system and your nervous system. And then vagal tone can suffer as well because we're not in that kind of rest, digest, relaxation, right? Where we can kind of absorb our nutrients from our food better and just kind of reboot our system. And then acute stress is normal, right? So if you're rushing to get onto an airplane, you're going to be, having an acute stress response. Having that every day creates a chronic stress, and that's where the dysregulation occurs. So other things that can contribute to this may be medications, in particular, things that you may take for reflux and or antibiotics, of course, alcohol, etc. So some people, public speaking can just send them over the edge. So I think there's like even a genetic test for that now. It's been available for a long time. So you probably know who you are, though, if public speaking is terrifying for you. So also leaky gut. So certain bacteria in the gut, when there are too many, can cause LPS, which is a inflammatory marker that you can test for. And that can contribute to a lot of this dysregulation and throw off your system. We'll get into that more soon. This is a bidirectional communication here. So we have the brain and the gut talking to each other through the vagus nerve, through immunological signaling, and through hormones and other communications and gut microbes. So it's pretty cool. So it's really driven by the gut microbiome, and the psychobiome of the gut is certain strains of probiotics, of healthy gut bacteria that can communicate from your gut to your brain and create a more kind of state of like peace and serenity and relaxation. So that's what we'll be diving into today. So the gut microbiome brain axis, if you will. So GMB axis. It's pretty cool stuff. So the science is there, and we're going to be talking a lot about Bifido longum strain 1714, and we have here at Microbiome Labs a branded 1714 person who is relaxed. You know, they're flexible in their nervous system. They're kind of in their Zen mode. They can sleep easily when they need to and wake up when they need to. They're stress resistant, and they're kind of like their, you know, Buddha mind, if you will, or whatever kind of term you want to call it. So just think of this 1714 guy throughout the presentation, and kind of get that in your mindset when you're thinking about what these Zenbiome products can do for you. So the gut-brain crosstalk is these postbiotics, so short-chain fatty acids like butyrate and stuff like that, that are made when your gut bacteria chew on prebiotics in the gut. And anti-inflammatory compounds kind of those combine, and they create a healthy biome, and are part of that healthy biome in the commensal bacteria. And then the gut production of neurotransmitters. So we know that things like serotonin are produced quite a bit in the gut. Breakdown of the intestinal barrier and leaky gut from, you know, gram-negative bacteria and dysbiosis, if you will. This last year, in January, I was at a conference, and I was in the elevator, and there were people, you know, who were kind of in like the baby boomer generation talking in the elevator around me, and they were talking about how a lot of their friends had been hospitalized for getting norovirus. And this is January of this year. So a while back now. And it was just interesting to me that that had been such a severe thing for them, and it was curious, and you know, I was alarmed and felt bad for their friends, of course, and had empathy. It also, you know, we can see that in some tests out there, but it also can disrupt the gut for long periods of time. So someone may get like food poisoning, or like their child may give them norovirus, or their family member have traveled and given that them. That can contribute to leaky gut and neuroinflammation for weeks or months later if the gut biome is not intact enough to deal with that. So the gut-brain crosstalk is neurotransmitters. It's the vagus nerve tone, vagal nerve tone, intestinal barrier, and the HPA axis. So it's all these 5 things. We're going to talk about it more, and the stress response and cortisol in particular, and adrenaline from the HPA axis. So down to the kind of the cellular level, if you will, if you're looking at kind of like a cross section of the gut here, we have, you know, in your enterocytes, or your cells lining in your small intestine, and our small intestine is very long, and a lot of surface area there. So we have short chain fatty acids, and then we have these 2 different cell types. So the enteroendocrine cells influence hormone secretion, and then enterochromaffin cells influence neuronal signaling and neurotransmitter release. So that's your gut brain in your gut, right? So your nervous system in your gut is part of this, is this enterochromaffin cells. So that's where you're going to get like that serotonin release, right? You're probably wondering, like, how is that happening? So that's literally happening from these cells in that cell, 1 cell thick layer of the intestine. And then commensal organisms play a role in that signaling, right? So they're here in the biome, right, microbiome, right, on that surface layer. And you have that healthy bacteria, and then you have pro-inflammatory bacteria secreting LPS, and it could decrease your level of things like short-chain fatty acids, acetate, butyrate, et cetera. And high LPS is going to create a problem with your gut brain. And we'll talk about that in a minute more and how that happens. And that creates that inflammation, right? So low keystone species and commensal species here, like one that's like very much talked about out there is like Akkermansia, right? So if you have enough antioxidants in your diet, like things like pomegranate juice, cranberry, stuff like that, that can help increase things like Akkermansia, green tea, organic green tea. So those things, and also things like immunoglobulin products can help increase your keystone commensal species as well. So, and we have some of those here at Microbiome Labs as well. So to kind of iterate this image here, you have the the nervous system inflammation coming from the gut to the brain in this bidirectional communication through the vagus nerve, and as well from these different cell types that are secreting different things. And if you don't have enough of those short chain fatty acids, or you have too much or too little of different neurotransmitters in the gut brain axis, that can create feelings of like a stronger stress response, right? So someone who is maybe taking Zenbiome COPE is not going to have that as alarm phase as high, right? In the stress response, you have this alarm phase. You get sweaty, your pupils are dilated, your blood is shunted away from the core of your body, from your torso, where most of your vital organs are, to your hands and your feet and your legs, so you can kind of run away from that tiger or that bear or fight, right? So that's kind of how our body's been engineered from a long time ago. So the cytokines and nutrients and gut peptides and hormones stimulate this communication. So if you have a lot of cytokines, you're going to have a lot of inflammation signaling in the gut. Bacteria influence the strength of the vagus activation and tone. So that's your parasympathetic, that's kind of like your pause, relaxation, your calm. You're not going to, get road rage driving to work if that's toned up, right? But you might get really upset about something more than if it was a little bit more toned up. So sensory pathways, reward, motivation, pleasure regions of the brain can be altered by this too. There's more research happening there. Severing this connection is linked to psychiatric related disorders. So like back in the day, they would like cut the vagus nerve and stuff like that. So it's not a good idea, obviously. And the gut is going to be integrated with the adrenals, right? And cortisol. So we're talking a lot about this nervous system connection with hormones and the gut. So if you're really big into kind of understanding hormones, and that's kind of something that you're really focused on, maybe with your practitioner and your overall health, you can measure your urinary cortisol, or you can do like an AM blood serum cortisol, before, ideally taking before 8:30 in the morning, assuming you're not a night shift worker. And that can give you, what your cortisol is when you wake up in the morning. There's also like cortisol wake and response tests, et cetera. But for the sake of today's presentation, we know that from the research that the microbiome, when it's corrected, can correct a very high cortisol level in the morning. And when you have dysregulated cortisol, it can affect your gut microbiome. It can affect the ability of, it can increase leaky gut if you have a lot of cortisol dysregulation. So keeping that balance there is key, right? It's like always kind of compensating and balancing here. And then the LPS is that molecule. It's the lipopolysaccharide molecule created by gram-negative bacteria. So think dysbiosis in the gut and inflammation. So that can dysregulate your cortisol. So literally the gram-negative or the dysbiotic bacteria in your gut can increase inflammation in the gut-brain axis, and then that can dysregulate your cortisol and your stress response. So literally your gut is kind of telling you how to respond to your environment, which is amazing. I think it's pretty cool. So which means that we can fix it too, right? So this is the communication of bacteria in our brains and cortisol. So diving down into the terms and the definitions, so we have the psychobiome and psychobiotics. So what do these two terms mean? Psychobiome being in the title is elements of the gut microbiome that impacts mood, cognition, and mental health. And then psychobiotics was coined by these three, essentially Ted Dienan, and John Cryan and Catherine Stanton. They defined a psychobiotic as a live organism that, when ingested in adequate amounts, produces a health benefit in patients suffering from psychiatric illness. So it's a very medical, kind of like medicalized term. I think kind of bringing it back is that it can kind of like create calm, peace, more positive mood, and effects characterized by changes in emotional, cognitive, and systemic and neural indices. So it's really just going to kind of help people get into that more parasympathetic from a probiotic level. And probiotics are, we all know what probiotics are, right? They're like real healthy, they're healthy bacteria. Some are commensal and keystone species. So, which means that they're in the gut, they're meant to be there. And here's a kind of a screenshot of a paper abstract, and it basically defines it again as a psychobiotic is a live organism when ingested in adequate amounts produces a health benefit in patients suffering from psychiatric illness. A class of probiotic, these bacteria are capable of producing and delivering neuroactive substances such as GABA, right? GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. So if you are trying to lay in bed and you can't go to sleep and just your brain does not turn off and you're thinking about like, oh, what about that spreadsheet? And what about my son and my daughter or my nephew or the neighbor's dog or whatever, you're just going on and on. GABA helps you turn that off. It's one of the things that helps when you have enough of your own GABA production. And then serotonin, I think of like a person who's maybe at like a house party and they're just sitting on the couch drinking a glass of wine and really mellow. They're not really motivated to do anything. They're content, and they're pretty like at peace. So these act on the gut-brain axis. So certain psychobiotics possess antidepressant and anxiolytic activity. So this is literally from this abstract saying this. And then it also mentions the HPA axis here. So it can reduce the overproduction of the cortisol and anti-inflammatory actions. So that's kind of what this is, like a high level, what we're going to dive into more. Where this term came from is also a title of this book, The Psychobiotic Revolution, Mood, Food, and the New Science of Gut-Brain Connection. And then some of these people mentioned on the previous slide in the definitions, Ted Dienan and John Cryan, PhD and MD, PhD, wrote it with this person, Scott Anderson. So you can get that book if you're really interested and if this really excites you. Definitely check it out. And I already checked, it's not on Audible, but you can get it at maybe your library or hardcover off of wherever you like to get books. So here we're going to dive right into Zenbiome COPE. This product is pretty spectacular. So it combines the well-researched psychobiotic of Bifidobacterium longum, 1714 strain. And we're very specific here at Microbiome Labs about the strain. So the analogy that's kind of been in the vernacular of the probiotics industry is that if you don't list a strain, it's essentially like someone saying they want a dog, and then they're given the option, they get like a Chihuahua instead of like a doodle or something, or a poodle, or something else, right? So you really list beyond the species. So Bifido longum is the species name, and then 1714 is the strain. So I just thought I'd reiterate that. And this is literally the label. So as vitamin B6 and B12. I really like that we have kind of not mega doses of B vitamins, because I've noticed clinically and with friends and family that some people cannot do very large doses of methyl donors, if you will, methylated B vitamins in active forms of B6. So I like that we have a lower dose. So in case you're already taking B complex in the morning, or maybe your practitioner already has you taking some B6, you don't want to, overdo it. B6, if you overdo it with B6, over 100 to 150 milligrams of especially active form of B6, P5P can cause peripheral neuropathies in your hands. So this is not going to do that. So I just wanted to mention that right off the bat because it's a lower dose. And then B12, and then the Bifido longum 1714, 50 milligrams, 5 billion CO2, and then saffron. So obviously, you probably know a lot about B vitamins, but just real quick, B6 is a neurotransmitter cofactor for dopamine and serotonin. So this can help with mood, and B12 is great for many things, including mood and nervous system health. And then saffron is improves sleep quality, supports maintaining positive mood, and supports induce kind of a state of relaxation. It's been used for a long time and going back to kind of ancient Persian medicine, and been used a lot in spices and food and stuff like that. So it's an amazing herb. You may have heard about it or seen in other products. I don't know, but it's spectacular. And then this is all in one capsule. So you can take 2 capsules in the morning or kind of whenever you feel like you need it most, kind of leading into the more stressful part of your day. So you can take it morning or before bed or midday. If you're kind of like, hey, I'm going to have a stressful day, you may want to take it. We'll talk about dosing, but you may want to take it morning and noon or early afternoon. So, and then I recommend people start slow and low with starting new products. So maybe start with 1 capsule and then work up to 2 capsules at a time. And then if you want to do 1 capsule twice a day, and then 2 capsules twice a day, if that's something that you feel like you need. So also the benefits of 1714, we'll dive into the research here before we're done, but there's many benefits and well-researched strain. So here's an image of the biochemistry for those of you that love biochemistry like I do. So here's your vitamin B6 as a cofactor. Taking, you may be familiar with 5-HTP. Well, your body converts 5-HTP to serotonin, and it needs B6 to do that. And then L-DOPA is converted to dopamine, and then eventually norepinephrine, and it converts L-DOPA to dopamine with B6. So just thought I would reiterate that and why B6 is needed. So there you go. Pretty awesome that we have it all in one product. And then we have our Zenbiome SLEEP product. So this has the 1714 as well, of course, and then lemon balm leaf extract and L-theanine. So lemon balm is a herbal medicine. It's in the mint family. So, not every herb is benign, but a lot of mint family herbs are more benign and generally recognized as safe designation than a lot of other herbal medicines you may see out there. And it helps with sleep problems. It's mildly sedating, where, for example, hops, which is an herb in the Cannabinaceae family, the cannabis family, is a true sedative herb, which is in obviously a lot of beer and stuff like that. So it is more mild than hops. And then it can help with symptoms of bloating. I mean, raise your hand or just say to yourself, like, if you've ever had bloating, right? So a lot of people have bloating today, and other kind of GI symptoms that a lot of people have. And its active constituents are essential oils and flavonoids and phenolic acid. So get some flavonoids are great because they're typically antioxidants, and the essential oils are what are going to help with kind of a lot of the other benefits. It can help with mood, cognition, GABA production, so helping you create more of your own GABA and promote restful sleep. And then the L-theanine. So if you've taken L-theanine before, I personally like taking L-theanine during my workday and before bed. It reduces stress and feelings of feeling kind of anxious or overwhelmed maybe. Supports focus, attention, and memory, and promotes relaxation and sleep quality. It also promotes serotonin, dopamine, and GABA production specifically. So it can support restful sleep. And combined with the lemon balm, it's going to kind of help you get more into that kind of sleep state faster. And then combined with the 1714, it may even help more with better quality sleep and and getting into the theta brainwave activity, specifically with the 1714 strain. So 1714 helps with coping with stress. It has an anti-inflammatory action, vitality, and mood. And it's just, a pretty awesome strain. And I'm excited that I get to talk to you about it all today. And here's some kind of like dosing recommendations, if you will. Generally speaking, I would say that please consult with a kind of integrative medicine pediatrician type practitioner before giving either of these products to a child under 3 years old. And if you're pregnant or nursing or taking any medication, please talk to your healthcare practitioner who prescribes said medication. None of what I'm kind of talking about today is like prescriptive. So this is all for your education. And AM and PM dosing. So if you have your AM and PM, AM and PM dosing. So if we have 2 capsules of Zenbiome COPE, you could also start with 1 and then work up to 2. You could do that in the morning if you're kind of like, hey, I have a more stressful in the morning. I noticed that I've had patients who retired, 7 years later. All they're doing is, quote unquote, all I'm doing, doc, is walking my dog, reading newspaper, and drinking my coffee. They still have an elevated cortisol response in the morning in their urine test. So, and I've seen that because that's when they did their commute. So our bodies have this kind of cellular memory, and our nervous system and our endocrine systems get hardwired to that over time. You can shift it, of course, and these products help you with that. So that person may want to take this in the morning, even though they are retired. And maybe you're taking the sleep at night. So you start with 1 Zenbiome COPE and 1 Zenbiome SLEEP at night. And then if you're really under a lot of stress, you could talk with your practitioner who's recommending it or where you're getting it from, and consider doing 2 capsules of Zenbiome COPE and 2 capsules of Zenbiome SLEEP. I had my patients always do like the stress questionnaire, and it's, there's like the top 5 stressors in life: death of a loved one, moving, starting a new job, divorce or separation. Like those are the absolute highest. Starting a new job is, I think, 6 or 5 or something like that. So if any of those things are happening for anyone, or yourself in the last year or 2, be gentle with yourself, and these products may help you. So definitely talk to your healthcare practitioner about those, or consider starting them. So we have some supporting science, of course, and I love science. That's why I'm on the clinical science team here at Microbiome Labs. And I just kind of summarized it for the sake of time. We have a comprehensive research synopsis of the 1714. So it's significant decrease in perceived daily stress with Bifidobacterium intake, improvements in memory, in particular hippocampus-dependent visual spatial memory. So that's part of your brain that is really important for memory, and different brain diseases affect that part of your brain. Reduction in cortisol. So we talked a lot about that, and acute stressors response is better or improved. Altered brain activity, reduced beta, which is like a more stress response brainwave length, and increased theta waves, which is more calming. Enhanced subjective vitality and reduced mental fatigue reported in the research. Remarked improvement in sleep duration during exam stress. So they did a college student study with that. So they improved their sleep duration during exams, which is rare, right? I never really slept much during my exams for all the schooling I did. And then anti-inflammatory actions, so reduce IL-1 beta and increase IL-10. So these are kind of like images of the different research that I just mentioned. Decreasing like neural inflammation is a big aspect of the 1714, and then helping improve and fix that leaky gut and leaky brain. So if you have a leaky blood-brain barrier and a leaky gut-brain barrier, typically if you have a leaky gut, you have a leaky blood-brain barrier, right? So that's obviously something you want to reverse. And then you're going to have more anxiety, potentially obsessiveness, sleep difficulties, hyperactivity, etc., and/or similar things with more beta waves. So this can help calm, relax, improve memory. If you have more stress response, you're going to have effective memory. Cortisol output is an acute stress response, so decrease that. Reduce cortisol output, reduce that fight, flight, freeze response, get you into more of a calm state with the Bifidobacterium longum 1714 serratus strain. And then this is talking about the research with the brain activity going to theta wave state. And then this is the college study, 8-week intake of 1714, 1 billion CFU per day. Sleep improved with these college students during exam stress in the published study. And then this is the anti-inflammatory study. So talking about that here. And then here's our 1714 guy again, or person. And key takeaways, you can take these products and help manage your mood and your stress better, and help with your sleep and relaxation, reduce tension. And now we have hopefully some time for Q&A. And then I've listed all of our resources here for you. So
thank you. Thank you so much. That was great. That was really interesting. Let's put some love into the chat for the doctor. I really appreciate that. That was beautiful. And so hopeful, right? I think there's just so much hope in the science, and then having the product available. Often we'll do webinars, we're lucky to, with like Dr. Jason Horlak, and who's legitimately like clinician as well as a researcher in the microbiome. And often he's like, oh, well, there's this strains matter, the whole dog analogy, but you can't get it available. It's just in research, or it's just in Japan or something like that. So it's really great that Microbiome Labs has done this and made it available for us. And just a couple of details. The link with the 15% off coupon that you need to fill in is in the chat. Sarah's saying that someone just was telling her yesterday about Zenbiome, and Teresa saying, yes, very helpful. Thank you for the info, Dr. Madeira. Very cool. If anybody does decide to purchase anything from Microbiome Labs before 8 tonight, including Dr. Madeira, I am addicted to these gummies. Oh my gosh. The Megaspore gummies. For those of you who are sick of capsules, you just like to have a little sweet treat, I'm telling you, I have to not take more than, my fair share a day, because basically they taste a delicious candy. I'm not kidding. Sorry, I'm chewing. If you decide to do something with anything actually from Microbiome Labs by 8 tonight, I have a gift for you. The slides that we were just showing you there, and a very cool masterclass that Karen Krishnan did. I'm going to steal the screen for a second, which is right here.
The primary author or one of the main authors was
it's about weight loss and metabolic health with Kieran. Okay. So I don't want to do that. I want to turn that off. Oh Lordy. Hold on. We're just gonna listen to it for a few minutes here while I try to figure out how to turn it off. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So it's full of studies and all kinds of great information. And that's your gift with purchase if you decide to order by 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight. Okay. Are you ready for questions, doctor? Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. Anonymous. So there's it's either one person asking a lot of questions or a lot of people all marked as anonymous in the chat. I don't know, in the Q&A. We'll do our best, but please don't let any cynicism or panic sneak into the questions, because it's time for relaxation, absorbing great information. If it's a fit, super duper. Okay. I know they say probiotics cannot make up for a bad diet. Can you speak on, or have you and your colleagues found that probiotics agree and make a lot more positive changes when someone has been eating a certain type of diet, and moderate to far less positive impacts potential taking probiotics relative to those on the YZ long-term diets? Well, first of all, I'm just going to answer part of this, like common sense here. Let's do some whole foods. Okay. So again, don't get too narrow or in your thinking and in your hyper vigilance, because I see this a lot in our population, and that I'm also speaking to myself, because I can get super hyper vigilant. And trust me, when you relax a little into this, you feel better long term. Dr. Madeira, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think people can get pretty religious about certain diets, and I would really work with a practitioner who knows you and your individual case. Generally speaking, of course, a lot of the Mediterranean and pescatarian, Mediterranean-ish diets out there have been claimed to be the healthiest for most people. However, when I've worked with patients, some people have like mold toxicity or an MCAS and they can't do a lot of fermented foods. And then people say like, well, eat a lot of sauerkraut and kimchi and stuff, and they can't eat that. So I think it's about, like first know thyself, right? It's like know
Mhm.
yourself and tailor things to what work for you, right? So one person may be able to eat a lot of like yogurts, and another person may not be able to eat any of those things. So I think there's like an old proverb. It's like one man's food is another man's poison, or one woman's food is
Sure,
another woman's poison. So
sure.
I would just kind of close that question with that proverb,
Okay.
if you will. Yeah.
So the bottom line is find what works for you. There is not one that is better than the other, totally is individualized, which no one likes to hear, but it's true.
Yeah.
How did they discover these exact strains that produce the calm? Was it through trial and error? Like what's the origin story?
Of the 1714,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm not entirely sure about like the entire origin story. The psychobiotics have been researched for a while now, like well over a decade. And
Right.
I mean, I think, like you mentioned, there's a lot of different kind of like genera or species listed in the research. And the 1714 is one of the fewer ones that is kind of available in circulation for
I
us.
remember looking for it a long time ago based on the research and I couldn't find it. And then you guys came out with it. I was so excited.
Yeah.
So they didn't discover that strain, but they are making it and making it available to the public. That's
Right. Yeah.
how soon do these changes tend to happen with the Zenbiome products? What chronic and acute health challenges have you, as a doctor, used probiotic products? Okay, what? Okay, how long does it usually take to see a change? Well, those college
Mm.
students saw a change very quickly.
Yeah. And within that study was only 8 weeks, right? So it's kind of like leading into the exam period.
Right.
Um, I mean, I think everything it depends. But if somebody is already eating pretty healthy and they don't have a ton of health problems, probably, within the first month or two, for sure. Sometimes the first couple of weeks, even. I mean, I've noticed for myself, taking products like this, that it really only took a week,
Cool.
anecdotally. So.
Yeah. What chronic and acute health challenges have you as a doctor used probiotic products for, if you could? Well, like
Hmm.
Megaspore to help with your like lipopolysaccharides. Like what else? What's a favorite of yours?
Here at Microbiome Labs, I love using Megaspore with the Mega IgG 2000 powder. I prefer the powder because people are
Interesting.
already taking a lot of capsules.
Yeah.
Immunoglobulins are great. They can bind different toxins like mold mycotoxins. There's also research that's come out in the last couple of years that immunoglobulins help your commensal keystone bacteria too. So with, a modified kind of immunoglobulin and Megaspore protocol, you can do a lot for someone's commensal bacteria, and with their diet and things like cranberry juice, diluted pomegranate juice, a lot of berries, green tea. So it can really change someone overnight. I mean, even I've noticed like friends and family or people that just like went out to eat and kind of ate the wrong thing. They don't necessarily have food poisoning, but they may have like loose stools or gas or
Yeah.
bloating. And they take the IgG, and within a day they're just like, I'm better. So
That's awesome.
um,
That's awesome.
yeah.
And the fact that it is a binder and it's not charcoal or something else that's going to lead to constipation
Mhm.
potentially is so excellent. Okay, what's the capsule material? How does it not totally degrade from the stomach acid of such extremely low pH to be able to make it to the end destinations? Classic question.
Yeah, capsules here are made out of like wood pulp or wood
Cellulose.
derived. So, yeah,
Cellulose,
so
yeah.
they're not derived from corn, which a lot of cellulose capsules are, or like they're like vegetarian. Like usually it's like a corn base typically in the industry, but ours are wood derived. I mean, they're engineered to bypass, the stomach. It's what most good capsules are. So, yeah.
Okay, Sarah's saying mental illness has been shown to improve with a more ketogenic diet. How do these probiotics fit with a keto style diet?
I think they fit perfectly. I mean, I
Yeah.
think any diet you need to do, and keto diets, albeit hard to do if you've ever tried one, like to do a real keto diet. I've treated a lot of people with like post-concussive syndrome and, mold illness and a lot of cognitive issues, if you will, anxiety, PTSD, et cetera. And keto diet for a time period, I think, is a great diet to do with products like this, and you can get a lot further kind of stacking those together. Yeah.
Dr. Madeira is not seeing patients at this time. He's strictly doing this type of education and other things with Microbiome Labs. Darlene, I get hangry, and I've noticed when I consume sugar, I get agitated and snappy. A lot of people are like that. That's really hormonal and metabolic issues. And I don't know how old you are, Darlene, but remember, postmenopausal, well, pre, peri, menopause, post, all of that, and also even hereditary issues. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would definitely like drill down with a whole foods nutritionist or someone who specializes in medical nutrition and look at what you're eating and when and how much. Sometimes even for 1 to 4 weeks, measuring, like weighing your food and making sure you're actually getting enough of your key macronutrient groups, and then getting into more of the micronutrients aspects of that. So, yeah.
Okay, why not pregnant, nursing, and below the age of 3?
Um, well, the herbal medicines have contraindications typically with nursing and pregnancy, typically. And then in pediatric populations, there could be like a different dose they need that could be lower than what's already in one capsule in some cases. So it really, I'm not a pediatrician. I have naturopathic medical, doctor colleagues that are integrated pediatricians, and they have board certs in naturopathic pediatrics. So I would give that question to them, but it's really just, it's pretty typical to have that as a cautionary statement for herbal medicines across the board and natural products.
Okay. Would you expect to see the change on urine neurotransmitter tests by using Zenbiome? If so, which neurotransmitters more prominently after a few weeks, months, a year?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it depends on the person. It could be
Right.
like 4 to 12 months ish. I'm not really a big fan of a lot of neurotransmitter tests. I think you can do if you go to like the Mood Cure questionnaire or something like that online from that book, The Mood Cure came out a long time ago. You can just do like a pre and post questionnaire. Um, but what I would say is that we did go over how it changes brain waves from like beta to theta, more calming. It does help with a lot of the gut serotonin production and GABA production in the gut-brain axis. So I would hope that serotonin and possibly dopamine and GABA would improve over time. Just depends.
Uh, I'm going to move on because I
Yeah.
think I covered it. When do you feel the probiotics are necessary in addition to herbs and vitamins you use?
Typically always.
Yeah.
What I was trained on back in, '05 to '07, even before naturopathic medical school, is that herbs always are going to work better when they have probiotics like commensal healthy bacteria to chew on them. So,
Sarah's asking, and this is a question I had like 8 years ago or 10 years ago. And there were, I don't know if this is what you're thinking of, Sarah, but like worried about colonization and things like that. That's kind of a myth that I don't know who started, but and by the way, I teach people about small intestine bacterial overgrowth, and I'm still saying this. So there are some things that can overgrow, but if you have your good keystone, like the mayors of your microbiome in place, then that shouldn't be an issue theoretically. So hold on. Okay. How do you know when to stop taking a probiotic to avoid overgrowth?
Not that's as you mentioned. So your probiotics are basically changing the way the inflammation signaling happens at a more like molecular and cellular level in your gut. So it's not necessarily like colonizing, like you said, per se. So
Okay.
yeah.
Would one need to be take, this is kind of related. So think about it, back in the day when we had potatoes and we had carrots in the ground, we would go and re-inoculate ourselves every day, maybe even multiple times a day when we played in the dirt and stuff. So the question, would one need to keep taking this forever to help balance mood, or does the body system smarten up and recalibrate after a certain number of months? Usually we're not necessary to buy for the rest of your life. Long-term costs cannot. It totally depends on what your needs are, right? Like, what are your goals? Are you below 0 by 100? Or are you below 0 by 5? So how do you want to address that? Anything else?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if someone has extremely stressful work and home life, or if they're retired, home life, and stressful events happening, they're going to need to take it longer because we cannot out supplement, like a toxic relationship in your life, whether it's your boss or spouse
Right.
or thereof. However, in those situations, it would be a good idea to take something like Zenbiome COPE and sleep because you would be better off improving your health during that time and afterward than not.
So we have 9 more questions and we have 7 minutes. So just a reminder, the link is in the chat. We will send out a replay tonight. If you do decide to order by 8 p.m. I bet I'm not doing something that I'm supposed to do. Email us your proof of, sorry, I didn't say this earlier. Email us your proof of purchase to SIBOSOS.com. And my team, within like 24 hours, will send you that masterclass on metabolic health with Kiran Krishnan. You need to send me your proof of purchase that you shopped with our link, please, for that. And you also get the slides from today. Okay, are there any benefits of taking probiotics with the vitamins versus spacing them out?
Yes. So as mentioned, vitamin B6 is a cofactor for your neurotransmitters, and there's going to be synergy there. So the reason why things are formulated together is to create that synergy. And when you have things formulated together, you don't always have to take as much of said ingredients, right? So
right. Darlene, can Zenbiome be taken with a biotoxin binders? If not, how long should I separate them?
we're talking about a different company, right?
So let's just say binders. No, we don't need to talk about another company. So let's just say binders.
Yeah. Well, if it has charcoal in it, or things like bentonite clay that are like, like very extreme binders, then I would say 2 to 4 hours. If it's a natural product, these formulations, at least 2 hours.
What is a reasonable expectation of how long these might take to help menopausal women with long-standing cortisol and sleep issues?
Well,
I think help right away, but you might notice it over the next couple of weeks to a month.
Yes. I mean, okay. You may need to address other things together with it, but I would say these products I would take for months, most likely, given we're talking about, perimenopause, menopause. So.
I hate this analogy. I'm like, how long did it take for you to get here? Versus like, we're not going to fix it overnight, but it's great to know that you're doing it in a really supportive way that's been studied. Okay. How do these products actually work when they break down? If he can get nerdy and talk about that a bit, please. I think that's what the presentation was about. These are powerful changes that happen to the gut and brain. You're so right. You're so right. But that really is what the whole presentation was. And due to time, I'm going to keep moving because I have 4 minutes and 8 questions. Can any thoughts on what actions and consumptions reduce the total effectiveness of taking this product? Would taking dairy, yogurts, thicker, mucousy food block impact? No. Just the binders we were just talking about. I'm just recovering from SIBO. Is it safe, advisable to start adding new strains of bacteria to my gut? How might I know this? I'm just going to chime in. Are you on a prokinetic? Literally, Dr. Allison C. Becker made me a t-shirt for my birthday that said, are you on a prokinetic? Because if I had $1 for every time I've asked that, I would be rich. I'd have $100. I have no idea, but you need to make sure that migrating motor complex is moving. And when you say you're just recovering, have you had a recent SIBO breath test that was negative? Did you get on the prokinetics within like 24 hours after that SIBO breath test? Did you retest after the treatments, etc.? So it's
Mhm.
really the migrating motor complex, the way that the small intestine sweeps out the debris and bacteria that is causing SIBO and IBS. It's not necessarily like adding extra probiotics. Agree or disagree, doctor?
I agree with you 100%.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
a lot of people need to take prokinetics. So I
Yeah.
love that t-shirt too.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
awesome.
That's awesome.
Can you, okay, an inverse of my question, what particular foods, physical activities, or actions done when taking the product or right before make the most sense to max the effectiveness of this and other Microbiome Lab products? I mean, do they need to have a yoga class beforehand?
No, I mean, you probably want to take, anything with B vitamins personally and professionally in my practice, I would say take with food. Um, so with that said, some people have iron stomachs, so to speak, or think they do. So they take things on empty stomachs like zinc and B vitamins. I always take with food and recommend my patients to, but other people don't have any issue with that. So, no, you don't need to like light a candle and meditate or do
Yeah,
yoga.
just freaking take it. That's
Yeah.
right. Can you, Colleen, great question. Do you need to separate Zenbiome and anxiety medications?
I don't know what anxiety medication you're talking about, but
And
I would
he's not your
definitely,
doctor, but
I definitely talk to your doctor about it. And they should be able to look up any drug herb or herb drug interactions.
I'm taking a hefty course of antibiotics and looking at how to repopulate my biome. One probiotic strain does not seem like enough. Well, how long have you been trying to do this? And I'm so sorry you had to take those antibiotics, and yet they can save your life. So I'm sorry you were sick or had a situation there. What else should I do to complement the Zenbiome products?
I would do the total gut restoration under the guidance of a practitioner, and then they may be able to tailor it more towards you in your case.
Total
From
gut restoration. That's a kit in Microbiome Labs that has the IgG 2000, has Megaspore, has something else that I can't remember. So go to the website and look that up. They call it TGR, Total Gut Restoration. Okay, I have a question.
Meg,
Go ahead.
sorry, it has mega pre, so it's the prebiotic.
Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. And start slowly, like seriously slowly. So slowly that you think, how could this possibly be effective? And then build up, really. And you can open the capsules and things like that. I think reach out to the customer service people to find out if it's okay to open the capsules. There's just like one or two that you can't. But if it's sold in a powder, then you can open the capsules. Just a little tip. I have a question. A close friend of mine, younger, in their early 30s with no formal diagnosis. He started to develop a very slight tremor in one of his hands when holding objects. Okay, they need to go to a doctor, a neurologist, as soon as physically possible. Would you expect this product can potentially resolve the nervous system issue? I'm going to say absolutely not. They need to go to a doctor. I would be irresponsible to even let him address this. Or is that something more serious needing more? Okay. Dr. Gaslit saying that it's all in their heads, and I saw it myself during Hangouts. So videotape it, have them, this is what I do. I'm a patient advocate, have them videotape it whenever you can, them, a friend, whatever, go find another doctor. Thank you. That's what I have to say about that. Colleen is saying the anti-anxiety medicine is an SSRI.
Yeah, I would definitely talk to your practitioner about that.
There's a test, you guys, and I think it's called Genomind. Are you familiar with this test, Sam?
I don't think so. Tell me about it. I'm
It's
curious.
really interesting. It takes your DNA and matches it up with certain anti-anxiety, SSRI type medications. And well, it's not a perfect test. None of them are. It's very interesting. And if you go with someone who actually knows what they're doing with this test, you can save some time, energy, and money, because a lot of times never get off those medications, okay, because there's a very special way to titrate and you need to work with your provider, but often there's guessing going on, right? Because this technology is very new. So I just popped it in there. I don't know if you can order it yourself. I don't really know that much about it. My husband did it, and in the beginning, turns out Adderall was not helpful for him, which he had been on for a really long time. And we're still sorting some stuff out, but just that ADHD is a bitch. Moving on. Okay. The pyridoxine hydrochloride is a synthetic form of B6, typically made from petrochemicals. Why not use the natural form P5P?
Well, that's the active form, P5P. So they're both quote unquote natural, if you will. So a lot of B vitamins and a lot of vitamins have inactive and active forms, and your body activates it. Some people cannot handle P5P. It's overstimulating to them. And if you overdose on P5P, especially 100 to 150 milligrams in a 24-hour period for many days, people get peripheral neuropathy.
Oh
So
my.
yeah, so it's not necessarily that all pyridoxine HCl is from petrochemicals. That's obviously not where we're getting it from.
Okay.
So
Last questions, Marie. I love lemon balm as it really does calm me down, but I have Hashimoto's and I was told not to take lemon balm as it accelerates hypothyroidism. Is that true? Should I avoid lemon balm?
lemon balm in high quantities for long periods of time is inhibitory to TSH and thyroid hormones. So if you have severe hypothyroidism, and this is taken before bed, so you may want to avoid lemon balm in that case. So something to talk to your doctor about. There's always an "it depends" clause for a lot of benign herbs, not drug herb interactions or people having reactivity to herbs. But yeah.
Sue, I'm on 4 different antibiotics for Lyme Babesia, so it's difficult juggling meds, supplements, probiotics. So I usually take probiotics at least 3 hours away from antibiotics. What do you suggest?
Typically 4 hours.
Okay. Also depends on your motility, right? Like
Yeah.
if it's fast, you probably do it a little sooner. If it's long, slow, probably want to do it a little bit longer. Now, Dr. Allison Seebecker, who is my main colleague in so many of these projects, the way she was trained, and she does teach advanced gastro at NCNM, the other naturopathic college. She was trained to take antibiotics with probiotics, which is obviously a totally different thing. So go into ChatGPT or PubMed and fall down that rabbit hole. And then when you guys come back to the next one, feel free to pop me a message. Okay. Last one. I cannot find organic probiotics. Is there a reason that probiotics are not certified organic? For example, I exercise a lot, take care around what quality standards of products I consume and apply, which is why I ask. It's an interesting question. You all have such great questions.
Well, organic is a cert for food.
Yeah. Are there pesticides being used in probiotics? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. Not necessarily. So, I mean, you're looking at like a strain of a species, right?
Right.
So it's like saying, um, there's like a bug on my carrot. Is a carrot organic, and is the bacteria on the carrot also organic? It's
Okay.
you're getting down to a microscopic level. So is there a dusting of
Right.
glyphosate or 2,4-D on there? Probably not, but
I don't think that like saying how natural or organic something is really the point, to be a little bit blunt.
yeah.
The point is don't get caught up in all that. If this appeals to you and you think it's a fit, you should try it. And then Microbiome Labs is a great company. They're vetted, they do their research. If you get a little too caught up in the minutia, you can kind of lose the plot. And I don't mean to say that as a harsh human being, because I love you all and I want you to be well. But I also know the roadblocks and speed bumps that can cause. So it's just a little bit of a trust the process, what appeals to you, follow your own intuition, use your common sense and your smarts. And just because something's natural, just to be really clear, like if I break my leg, I'm going to have some drugs that are not natural. And if I have, C. diff, I'm probably going to take a drug that is not natural to help me so I don't, poop out, like instead of bleeding out. So I mean, like there's just like, and hemlock is natural, right? Which can freaking kill you. So it's just like some distinctions that I don't want you to actually make. I would like you to avoid those hyper focused distinctions to allow you to ease into this. Relax, be gentle with yourself. Really acknowledge that there's some tools that are an option for you. We got a great coupon. Cool. If you want it. If not, I'm so glad you were here. This was such an educational event. And thank you so much, Dr. Madeira. You did such a great job, and it's an honor to have you. And I want to thank Microbiome Labs for supplying with us every single month amazing free content for my audience. It's a tremendous honor to have you all, and also that special 15% off. And then we like to throw that bonus in if you do decide to shop with one of our links by 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then let us know at info@SIBOSOS.com. Okay, let's put some love into the chat for the doc, and we will see you next time. Thank you all so much. Great to have you. And Sam, Dr. Madeira does have a Substack in case you want to check him out. Just like put his name in Substack and you can see what he's been up to. And you can find out more about the SIBO work that I do at SIBOSOS.com. And rock on with your bad selves. Check out the email. We'll send it to you later tonight. Thank you. Great job. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.